we as people are very susceptible to anxious thinking, to worrying, to negativity. It's almost like you have a exclusive cafe or restaurant or bar, and you vet the guests that come into that bar. But as soon as anxiety turns up at the front door, as soon as worry turns up at the front door, as soon as a state of stress or negativity enters our awareness, we invite them in immediately. No questions asked. It's almost like a VIP. They hold a VIP card, come inside, let's go. Any state of anxiety, any stressful thinking, any negativity that comes to your door, there's no questions asked. Come inside. Comes along happy thoughts, comes along a sense of resonance with the world, comes a feeling of appreciation of life, of yourself, of your circumstances. Not sure, I've got to vet that, got to check that one out, a bit suspicious. Yeah. We have such issues letting people into the shul with the CSO, with security. You know, people have to send their passports through, a letter from the rabbi, all these difficult things. Once anxiety comes to the front door, the biggest terrorist of all, mamish wearing, you know, the hijab or whatever they're, you know, dressed in army uniform with a helmet and you know, some M16s. Come inside, my friend, come in. Comes along the positive one, the one that is there to actually engage with the community in a proper way. No, we need to check your passport. Yeah? And the question is why? Why are we so addicted to this negative engagement? Why are we so comfortable? We're not really comfortable, but we're so uninhibited when it comes to allowing these thoughts of negativity to enter into our thinking and enter into our being or lack of being. So the first source, which I don't have for you, I've added it in this morning, is a Gemara in Soita. You don't have it on your page.
Gemara?
The Gemara is found in Soita.
How do you spell that?
S-O-T-A-H. You can spell it however you want. Samach Vav.
Samach Vav.
Tes Hey. 5a. And it says, Amarav Alexandri, Kol Adam Sheyesh Bei Gassus Haruach, any individual that has something called Gassus Haruach, which is a state of arrogance. Gas means to be thick. A sense of thickness, almost like a membrane. No, a membrane that we develop, a callousness that exists around us, a thickness that we build around ourselves, and that's made up of this ruach, of this spirit, this membrane of spirit. Afilu ruach kima or chartoi. Even a small or slight wind will disrupt that person, will uproot that person, will make that person feel like there is no more reason to live. Well, they'll know there's a reason to live, but they don't feel alive. So what does that mean? And the analogy that's given is from the prophet Yeshayahu, which says, Varashayim kiyam nigrash. It says that the wicked are like the ocean sea. Uma yam sheyesh be'kamar aviyos ruach kima ochartoi. Just like the ocean, which has so much water, a wind will cause it to be very wavy and to cause so much to be brought up from the sea surface, the dirt and the seaweed and all of the refuse that may be in the seabed. Just a small wind can already catalyze so many waves. Adam sheyesh bo eile revi'is achas, a person that just has a small amount of blood that their soul is found within, a small wind, of course, will cause that person to feel real turbulence in their life. So how does this connect to our addiction, to negative thought, to so easily allowing the entrance into our minds of anxiety, of depression, of fear? Why are we so happy for those entities to come into our thinking and come into our general engagement with life? And why are we so restrained when it comes to thoughts of positivity and thoughts of well-being and thoughts of resonance? And the answer is found in one thing. The answer is found in the third river. The third river is called Hidekel. And Hidekel tells us it comes Kidmas Ashur. It comes before Assyria. And Assyria, we know, is a place of war. The Syrian people were very strong, powerful, versed in war, versed in battle. People that were focused on usurping and controlling and amassing more land and more slaves, etc., etc. So this third river comes from a state of the ego, where originally we understood that part of the ego is to enclose us and say that this is who you are, which is your appearance, your physicality, what you have around you, what you own. That was the first river. And we understood that there's a deeper self there, and that's a secondary form of existence. Then the second river we saw was a state of the ego that wants to experience things, wants to expand through the horizontal platform of the world in terms of experiences, lusts, desires, food, travel, etc., etc. That was the second aspect of the ego, and we learned that it's important to expand vertically, internally, through our connectivity to the expansiveness of silence and presence and stillness that lives in our lives, which is the essential reality. The third river is going to understand that part of the ego, due to the encrusted, callous membrane that surrounds us, that's essentially what the ego is. It is a shell of non-existence. What's found inside? What's found inside of that shell?
Negativity.
Negativity, but almost like if you have an abscess in your body,
Pus.
it starts to form pus and infection. And the part of the ego that we're dealing with now is that when there is a lack of life inside of you, when there is a lack of vitality inside of you, when there is a lack of true engagement with who you are, and the entire focus is now on this membrane that we develop around ourselves called the egoic identity, it starts to fill with an infection, with pus. It starts to fester. And what that festering loves to engage with is negativity. It feeds on anxiety, it feeds on depression, it feeds on darkness, it feeds on what is wrong, it feeds on who is wrong and what is going against me in life, and what can I find? Almost like a radar system. You have this radar system in this river looking to find something wrong. And Gewalt, When you find the smallest smidgen of something wrong, you will hone in onto it. Like a missile just going straight to that. And you'll blow it out of proportion. And you'll focus in and 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 focus in. Because you know what it's allowing you to do? It's allowing you to feel a false sense of being alive. The ego is so thirsty and so hungry when it can find it's something to sink its fangs into, to now start sucking on the negativity that's there. It gives you a false sense of being alive. It gives you a false sense of, oh, look at this. Now I can be alive. Now I've got some state of existence. Because if you understand, previously, you didn't realize you were alive. Now that you feel some negativity, you like to play with that negativity. It gives you such a kick. It gives you such a feeling of, I feel something. And that's why you see these people, they get into a state where they just want to find something bad to focus on. They want, when they have an opportunity to speak negatively about their life, about someone, or what someone did, or perceive something a negative way, they will dance. But it's the devil that's dancing inside of them. And this is what it means, that even the slightest wind will disturb a person that has this thick membrane of the ego, of gasus haruach, this thickness that's around them. So even the slightest wind, the smallest email, an SMS, which we don't use anymore, the WhatsApp, that has been written in a way that's not considerate enough or sensitive enough, or that person didn't reply to me fast enough. Gewalt! Now it's a thing that I can focus on and just completely consume myself and let in all of that negativity into my life. Come inside, come in, we want you there. Letting in that infection to spread, and you sit there and you sit there and you just completely ruminate on that negativity. It's not enough for you to speak about it once. You need to look at it at every different perspective and talk about it and talk about it and talk about it and chew on it and chew on it, chew on it. And then you finally got some distraction of, whatever it is, but it's not enough that you're distracted, that you need to think about it as well, why you're being distracted. And then it's not enough that to share it with that person, you need to share it with that person and get more negativity. And they love negativity because they're also empty. So now they're also speaking about negativity. And you're just a whole school of infection, of negativity. And that's how we're functioning, like these zombies that feed on the blood of negativity. Because we're empty, we are infected, we are full of pus. And this is found in the second source, the first source that I've given you, where it says that Noah sent out the raven. And it says in the Gemara that the raven said to Noah, your master, reference to God, hates me and you hate me. Sounds like most people in their life, they think that people hate them and that life hates them and everything hates you. Yeah? He commanded to take from the kosher species 7 and from the non-kosher species 2, so he's already got it in for me, the raven says. And you hate me as you disregard those from the species of 7, i.e. the kosher birds, and instead dispatch one from the species of 2. And he says that the reason that you think this way, right at the end of the Gemara, is perhaps you are sending me because it is my wife that you need. So the raven actually thought that Noah had his eye on the raven's wife. Can you imagine that? What a crazy logic. What a crazy thinking, yeah? And this is what this does to us. That we will imply and utilize, and we will come to deductions which are so illogical just to create something to focus on that's negative. We will jump to so many far-fetched, stupid conclusions in order to have something negative to have our teeth chewing on. Fat. And the Gemara carries on in the next source, and it tells us that the reason why the raven had this perspective was that there were 3 on the ark that engaged with illicit behavior, which was prohibited during the suffering of those around. That we know that it's prohibited to engage in any forms of intimacy when there is death and curse around. And one of those was the raven. The raven actually engaged in improper behavior with its wife. And we are taught that this is the deepest understanding of why we are negative. And that is when you yourself have this negativity of infection inside of you, that's how you will perceive everything else around you. When you identify negatively with yourself, if all you focus on in your life is the negativity that's inside of you, and how you're not good enough, and how you don't have enough, and how you need more, and the essential self is depleted, then you become thirsty for negative appearance and negative things to focus on. And that's essentially what's happening here with this raven. It itself performed an act that was improper, and thus it now viewed Noah as wanting to perform a same problematic act. So anytime you are finding yourself looking at everything negatively, it's a quick telltale indication that there's something wrong inside of you. That there's something wrong, that you've got pus, that you've got gasus haruach, that it's the only thing that it is that you have been infected by this membrane called the ego. That you've encrusted yourself, and almost like, those trees that have that thing that starts to grow around and completely constricts the tree, and then it just suffocates it until it dies. The vine, this special vine that comes and kills the tree. So this ego's crawled up onto you, and it's just encrusting itself around you, suffocating you to not have any sun, any air, until you kill yourself. Not even necessarily in a real way as in taking your own life, but you kill yourself. You're a living dead person because of your mentality on life. Everything is negative. And an example of this we find in the next source, where it says that Haman. So it says, where is Haman found in the Torah? Where do we find Haman in the Torah? So it's a bit of a problematic question, isn't it? Because we know the Torah was given before the story of the Jewish people in Persia. So where do we find Haman in the Torah? So we know that everything has its source in the Torah. And even Haman has its source in the Torah. And do you know where Haman is found? So the Gemara tells us, Hamina eitz, from the tree, Hamin, from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Which Haman is the essential embodiment of the egoic self. Never good enough, never enough. So Haman had, and probably was the wealthiest under the king of that entire period of time. This was the Bill Gates of Bill Gateses. This was the individual that had everything, power, prestige,
had everything but yet nothing.
Everything, but one thing caused everything to be a nothing. And what was that? He says that Mordechai, the small Yiddelach, the small Jew, would not bow down to him. And he says, yet all this means nothing to me every time I see that Jew, Mordechai, sitting in the palace gate.
Where are we reading? May I ask? Source 3.
Source 3. So that means the following. That everything can be going amazingly. Everything can actually be perfect. And when you bring yourself back to the present moment and you feel, 1 second, I am breathing, I am present, life is pulsating through me. Yes, there are certain things that could be a little bit different, but essentially, is anything really wrong right now? Before the thoughts kick in and start saying, yes, but this, but that, but this, oh, that, what I don't have, what I want to have, what I should have, right now. Everything okay? Right now, without the thoughts. Amazing. But you have an individual that has everything, all the money, all the prestige, perfect, power. This guy, everyone is worshipping. This guy, everyone is bowing to. But one person doesn't focus in. Why? Because he's infected with the ego. And the ego is relentless. The ego essentially, if you understand how it functions, this gasus haruach, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, is there to do one thing. And that is to deny you the right to live. To deny you the right to exist. Because as soon as you start living, as soon as you start breathing in and seeing that 1 second, nothing's really wrong here. All of these worries and anxieties and fears are actually inconsequential. They're irrelevant. They really are inconsequential. The things that I'm worrying and anxious and fearing, if I look a couple of weeks later, they're nothing. Nothing's happened. Reminds me of a story where there was a proclamation that went out against the Jewish people in a certain village, and the proclamation came from a rich landowner who was approached by an individual who said, look at these Jewish people, they're bad. He says, listen, I've had an amazing relationship with them, they've been fantastic, what are you talking about? He says, I'll prove it to you. You love your dogs, you have these beautiful hounds. He says, the Jewish people have a secret that they're not telling you. They actually know how to teach your dogs how to speak. And they're not telling you. And I bet you if you went to the Jewish people and you asked them in your town, can they teach your dogs how to talk? I bet you that they'll tell you no. They're not going to help you out. So he says, all right, let's check. I'll prove it to you that they're good people. So he came to them and he says, listen, this is the proclamation. You either teach my dogs how to speak or I'm kicking you out from all of your lands. This was disastrous. Imagine having to pick up, you have everything established there, and now, out, go. So the rabbis and all the advisors of that town, the elders came together and they said, okay, what do we do? How do we deal with this? What are we going to do? And no one could really think of anything to say. How do you teach a dog how to speak? Until they saw one individual. He says, I got the idea. I know what to do. Give me 1 moment to speak to this landowner. I know what to say. So they said, all right, we have no other option. Go. He goes into this palace. And 20 minutes later, he emerges with these hounds on a leash. Singing, dancing, everything's fine. So they said to him, we don't understand. What happened? What did you achieve here? What did you say to him? He said, it was simple. You know what I said? I said that it doesn't make sense. If you realize that it takes a baby, a human baby, takes a baby some time to be able to develop the ability to speak, you want us to teach your dogs like this? At least you need to give us 6 months to teach your dogs how to speak. So the rabbis looked at him and they said, are you mad? Are you crazy? You've done nothing. All you've done is you've prolonged the whole thing. It's not gonna, what have you achieved? And he said, you don't know what happens in 6 months. The moment he has this decree, something else might come along. Whatever will be, will be. And you will see that the things that you hone into, the things that you focus so much on, so stressed about what's going to happen this week, so stressed about what I have to do and produce, so stressed, gewalt. And then you look back at those things that you're stressed about, and are they substantial in any respect? Even your successes or your failures, did it cause anything for you? Did anything change? Those things that you're stressed about now are inconsequential. They're irrelevant. They are nothing, but we blow them out of proportion. We even focus on them. Who said you have to focus on it? Who said that stressing about anything and being anxious about anything and putting all of your focus on negativity, which you're so addicted to, we are so addicted to because of this infection, it's not changing anything. So the key is to understand that this is an infection, this is an illness, a disease that is plaguing humanity. One of the worst places that this exists is in our relationships. It says in the Gemara in Soita that Ish ve'isha zochu, Rabbi Akiva taught that if a woman and a man are meritorious, Shechina b'neihem, the Shechina, the presence of God, presence, being present in your life exists. Lo zachu eisha ichloson, and if they don't merit, fire consumes them. The fire of negativity will erode at their entire being, like an acid, an acidic fire that will continue to wash like the waves onto them, constantly in a state of pain and anguish and being eroded by this acidic fire. And what the Gemara explains, he says, by the way, here, that a woman has it worse than a man.
I agree.
A woman is consumed more by that fire than a man is. They're both consumed. They're both burnt by this fire. And the secret is found in the simple lettering. That if you notice the word ish, aleph yud shin, and isha, aleph shin hey, both contain within it the word eish, which is fire. And the letters that create a buffer for that fire are the letters yud and hey. Yud and hey is a reference to the Shechina, to the presence of God, but essentially it's a reference to your deeper self. It is a reference to the part of you which doesn't associate with your ego as your primary identity. It's the part of you which is sublime. It's the part of you which doesn't sink into the negativity because it's so thirsty. It doesn't care. It is so tranquil and so peaceful and so tapped into life, it doesn't care. It's irrelevant. It's irrelevant what that person did, what they didn't do, what they could have done. They don't care. And this is why we are so focused in Judaism about refraining from negative speech, from not judging negatively, from not engaging with idle chatter. You know what that person did, you know what they got from the shop, you know what they bought, because all of these things are stemming from a state of non-existence, a state of being banished into a state of exile within an infection. And this is what it means here, that if you don't have that presence of Yud Hey in your life, you are consumed by fire. You see the fire, it's almost like those insects, you know, those insects that fly to the light, and they come in and they get shocked and killed. But they'll keep on going. They just saw their friend go there into the light, and he just died, and they're gonna go kamikaze straight for that light. And the crazy thing is, we do it to ourselves. So we know that getting angry, we know that being negative, we know that speaking Lashon Hara, we know that being anxious just kills ourselves. It doesn't do anything to you. You've just been smashed by that light. You've just been electrocuted. But we do it again and again and again and again and again and again and again. Because we have fallen into the third river, Hidekel. Hidekel is all about kidmas asher. How do you come before? How do you conquest? What are you better than? And if you understand conceptually how this works, is if when you find something negative to focus on, now you are an entity, aren't you? Now you have an opinion on something. Now you are a judging force. Now you're somewhat consciously aware and debating and thinking and engaging with something. Even though it's completely illusory, even though it's completely false. But when it's about you versus them, you versus life, you versus the circumstances, now you think there's a you. Now you think you found a form of existence. And this is what it says, that anyone who gets angry, all kinds of Gehenna, hell, rule over that person. Hell, according to the Maharal, is a place of emptiness. Hell, Gehenna, is also referred to as Sheol, which is a pit of boundary and of emptiness. You are negative if your thinking and thought processes and what you're looking at to spot is all about what's wrong and what's gonna be wrong, and you're waiting every second to receive an email or a message on your phone of something to deal with because there's gonna be something wrong.
Or it could be just one individual.
Or one individual constantly irks you because it's just so annoying, and how can they be so inconsiderate, and how am I so unlucky that I have this circumstance, life hates me, and if only that person wasn't there, everything would be positive, everything would be amazing. You know why I do it? Because you want to get a sense of being alive. Really, at the end of the day, it's not worth being focused on to that extent. Yes, we can try and rectify things. Yes, we can try and deal with things and fix them up. But when it consumes you, when it becomes something that stops you from seeing the blessing that's around you, then you know it's not about the other person, it's actually you. When you become a Haman, Hamina Eitz, from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, when the ego has infected you, and everything you look at is just black and negative because of that one person.
What if you don't look at everything else, but it's just one person?
Well, that one person is an anchor that's preventing you from moving, isn't it?
That's where you see negativity. That's where you see no positivity. You can't, everything else is falling around, but it's amazing. But one person, one thing.
So the question is, when you're with everything, is that one person still there with you? So yes, sometimes you're in a circumstance where you have to deal with something. How much anger and how much angst and how much, feelings of negativity is inside of you is also an indication of your egoic self. Obviously, we've learned you can't remove your ego, and obviously we understand that you will be upset by things, and things naturally won't go the way you want them to go. But the question we have is, how much do we allow it to become our primary state of definition? How much do we allow our focus to be solely on the negativity? And how much are we constantly looking for negativity? How much are we constantly trying to find what's negative as opposed to engaging in the status quo of positivity? The internal self is there. Life is there. Every moment is full of beauty. Every moment is full of nutrition. Bring yourself back into the present. Bring yourself back into your breath and into your body. Experience life and then ask yourself, what do I know for sure? What do I know for sure? The only thing you know for sure is now. Is that you are conscious? Is that you are alive? And all of these thoughts of negativity that surround, they're inconsequential. They're irrelevant. They're those types of visitors that you say, listen, I'll see you maybe another time. I'm not interested to go out with you tonight. You can go to somewhere else. Don't want you inside my house. Sorry.
That's a good question.
Yeah.
What happens? The body has a natural adrenaline when there's danger.
Yeah.
What happens if some of this is danger? In other words, a person, like you were asking, is constantly undermining stuff. And you know, you're aware of all of this, and you bring yourself back every time. But that person is going on with that. Do you say to yourself, okay, my adrenaline says I must go away, I've got to hide. I can't just be here and breathe in front of somebody, or not. I was going to say something like a tidal wave, but what do you do then? I mean, you give it up to Hashem, because
this isn't saying that if you have an option of fixing something, that you stay ignorant to something that can be fixed. And it's not saying that you need to put yourself into circumstances which are negative and constantly trying.
I'm talking about an unfixable situation.
If it's an unfixable situation,
You run.
so you can't run, because if you're running, then that's fixable, isn't it? If you can get out of a situation which is unfixable, then it can be fixable. By going to a different situation, going somewhere else. You don't have to subject yourself constantly to that negativity. Who said you have to be there? But if you can't, and there are many situations that you can't, so instead of sitting in that circumstance and constantly ruminating on the negativity and how unfortunate and how negative and bad and horrible and anxious and depressed and bad, and all of those aspects are constantly like a pool of scum and disgusting energy that's inside of you, and you're just swimming in it. But you're swimming and you're drinking it, and you want to almost be there constantly. Why are you doing that to yourself? Yes, I know that we say to ourselves, well, we can't make it. It's your choice. You want to focus in on it? Then it's the part of you that says that what defines me is my externality. What defines me is my appearance, my experiences, and my ability to reign over life. And when I don't feel something that I can focus on that's negative, I don't feel alive. Let yourself go. Let yourself go. And this is found in the most insane situation, where we see in the Torah, it says that Joseph says to his brothers, "V'yomer Yosef elach Echav." Joseph said to his brothers, "Ani Yosef, ha'oid avichai, is my father still alive?" So the question that's asked here is, why does the Torah have to say, "And Joseph said to his brothers, I am Joseph, is my father still alive?" Surely, if he comes along and says, "Guys, I'm Joseph, is my father still alive?" they're going to know that that's their brother. I am Joseph means I am your brother. And what the insight is here in this verse is a very, very deep insight, which tells us the following. There will be circumstances where you will be upset, that something really irks you, that something is really painful, that something seems to be very inconsiderate. And if there's no other real example of that, it's Joseph's own family, his own brothers, wanting to kill him and then deciding, instead of killing him, we'll sell him off to slavery. I mean, imagine your own brothers did that to you, to sell you off into slavery, never to be seen again, lying to the father to say that he died. I mean, are you nuts? People stop speaking to their family members after much smaller things. His own brothers sold him off into slavery. And you know what he says to them? I am Joseph, your brother. He still tapped into the understanding that he is brothers with them. And he honed into that simple reality that is transcendental, that goes above and beyond all negativity. A part of you that exists no matter what happens. You still exist. You still tap into life. When you are anchored or almost being held up by that identity, that life is, and it always is. And no matter where it takes you or what happens, life will always be is. You are still alive. And there is so much of connectivity. Life is pulsating through you. The universe, the expansiveness, God still wants and is connected to you. That transcendental, I am your brother. No matter what's happened to you, no matter that your brothers threw you into a pit and then sold you off to the Ishmaelites, I still see the brother in you, which means people are also stuck in circumstances. They're stuck in their egoic selves. They're stuck in a state of focus, a narcissistic existence. And you have to understand that. And let that happen. See the brother. See the depth that exists. See the life that's underlying everything, because everything else is inconsequential. The part of you that is so hungry to consume negativity is the part of you that's denying life. And this we see, and we conclude with a few more sources. And that is in Sefer Shmuel. When King David was in the most depleted, disastrous, problematic circumstance, his own son starts a coup against his father, usurps his kingdom, sleeps with his wives in public to show that he is now the king, tries to kill his own father. And his father, King David, leaves the city. And to add to the insult and the pain, as King David HaMelech, is walking out, it says that as King David was approaching, Bahurim, a member of Saul's clan, a man named Shimi ben Gera, Shimi the son of Gera, came out from there, hurling insults as he came. He threw stones at King David and at all of his courtiers, while all the troops and all the warriors were at his right and his left. And these are the insults that Shimi hurled. Get out, you criminal, you villain. Imagine what you'd be feeling at that moment. You have the worst day and then someone starts swearing at you and someone starts calling you names. Imagine it's someone you're related to. How dare they say this to me? How dare they do this? The Lord is paying you back for all your crimes against the family of Saul, whose throne you seized. The Lord is handing over the throne to your son Avshalom. You are in trouble because you are a criminal. Imagine someone saying this to the king. Avishai, the son of Zeruiah, said to the king, he was his right-hand man here, the general, why let that dead dog abuse my lord the king? Let me go over and cut off his head. Easily, King David could have said, guys, get rid of him. I mean, this is ridiculous. Get rid of him. But the king said, what has this to do with you, you sons of Zeruiah? He is abusing me only because the Lord told him to abuse David. And who is to say why you do that? David said further to Abishai and all the courtiers, if my son, my own issue, seeks to kill me, how much more the Benjamite? Let him go on hurling abuse, for the Lord has told him to. Perhaps the Lord will look upon my punishment and recompense me for the abuse Shimei has uttered today. We are told at that moment that King David kept quiet. Where any normal person would hone in on the negativity, hone in on how bad their circumstance was, hone in on how they can respond to this horrible circumstance, this travesty. Cut off his head in a second. That's how we feel when someone does that to us. King David kept silent. Didn't affect him. Didn't affect him. He just was. We are told at that moment, King David became the fourth wheel of the chariot that takes you to consciousness, called the Merkava. He joined the forefathers, and became the fourth wheel with Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov on the chariot that takes us to deeper consciousness. Because it is only a person that has been redeemed from the trap of negativity, the river of Hidekel.
It takes us to
the state of consciousness. So it's only an individual that has been redeemed by that state of consciousness, by that state of awareness, by that state of understanding, that my addiction and my constant obsession with what's going wrong and how I can be more anxious and more depressed and more in fear is because we don't exist anymore in ourselves. We've lost the state of being.
Doesn't Rabbi Nachman also say that?
Ein Yeush ba'olam, of course.
And if you are insulted and you don't insult back, there's a place for you in Gan Eden.
100% is one of the deepest ways of growing in your consciousness. But you have to understand, where is it coming from? Is it a religious thing that you say, oh, I was insulted and the Torah tells me I shouldn't insult back, but gosh, am I completely consumed inside? And you think about it the entire day, week, month, year. You don't speak to that person anymore because you want something bad to hang on to. And when you forgive, you don't know what else to focus on. And the next happiest moment of your life is when something else bad happens that you can now focus everything onto. So just to conclude, the Rambam, a very controversial source here, in his Perush HaMishnayos, brings that he asked one of the most pious men ever to live. He asked him, what was the happiest day of your life? He saw this written in a book, the Rambam. And it said, this man was asked, what is the happiest day of your life? And you'll see in the source, he says that one day he was sleeping on the bottom of a ship amongst all of the luggage and clothing, and a wealthy individual came down to this area and he noticed this Jew lying amongst the luggage. And it says that he was insignificant and lowly in the eyes of this esteemed, aristocratic individual. And he decided he was going to urinate on this Jew. And he proceeded to urinate. And this Jew woke up and was astonished, he says, by the intensification of the trait of brazenness in this person's soul. And he rejoiced with great joy because he realized that the pain that he was feeling inside wasn't the pain of disgrace, Wasn't the pain of, wow, there's something negative to focus on. Let me show how angry I can get. Let me show how frustrated I can be. Let me show you how much I can focus and fight back and be negative and be egoic and show everyone who I am. But he realized that the pain that he was feeling was, how could humanity be so brazen and so lowly that they could do such an act like that? But he realized deep inside of himself he wasn't affected. Deep inside of himself, it's inconsequential. Yes, it's uncomfortable, but it didn't affect him so deeply like it would to an individual that cuts you off while you're driving, or doesn't say hi to you in the morning, or disagrees with the opinion that you make in public, or doesn't show any form of sensitivity. Oh! You think that's more than being urinated on by someone? So every time you feel that sense of angst, of negativity that's coming inside of you, understand that it's the pus and the infection that's inside of you that is thirsty for something to consume, but it's going to give you nothing. You're not at square one, you're going back constantly. It's pulling you, it's dragging you, because the last thing it wants you to do is to be alive. Because once you tap into the present, once you tap into life itself, the ego dies. The ego doesn't have a primary state of existence. It is there to now serve you rather than you serve it. And this is concluded in the verse in Shir Hashirim, which says, don't look at me or stare at me because I am so burnt by the sun. Why am I so burnt by the sun? Which means, why am I in a state of being completely sunburnt and so sensitive and so in a state of angst? It's because of one thing. Because I've been guarding the vineyard of others rather than guarding my own. And that means that we focus so much on other people's opinions and other people's vineyards and proving ourselves to everyone else that's around us. And when it doesn't go our way, then we feel like Gewalt. I don't have any state of existence. All of this is interwoven. Our addiction to negativity and our addiction to proving ourselves to everyone else stems from one thing, this river of non-existence inside. And the trick is to be able to then turn yourself to your own vineyard. Your own vineyard is your beautiful life that you have inside of you. Every moment, be sensitive of every single still and calm moment. Something comes up, you'll deal with it. Wherever life takes you, that's where you'll go.